Welcome to Superstitions and Traditions. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Trish.
And this is our podcast about all of history shenanigans. And today we are doing superstitions. And we are going to talk about the superstition of jumping over a broom.
I have heard a little bit about jumping over the broom, and I do remember it from a movie that I know I experienced. I'm not sure if you did, but I know you have heard about it, so I'm waiting anxiously.
The act of jumping over a broom right now to end wedding ceremonies.
Okay.
Which is a practice that occurs primarily in the Black American culture. That comes from the movie you're talking about.
Roots.
So tell us about your
Roots
movie.
Okay, so take me back to the 1970s. Trying to think how old I've been. Never mind, you don't need to know. Okay.
I didn't exist.
For those of us that are older, or for those of us that have watched Roots, we know that during that time, Roots was one of those, the first time that I remember truly seeing a documentary, or not a documentary, but a show that was based on Black culture.
Okay.
And so it was about, roots. Gives the name tells you what it was basically about, the struggle as they made it through, as they struggled with slavery and coming out of slavery and staying in tune with the roots. And the Kute Kinte was was a young, and I'm trying to remember the exact, and I can't remember if it was post-slave, or I think he was, when he was married, it was while he was still in slavery. So during he's marrying Belle, who they cement their wedding vows, and I can still see the scene playing. I can see the scene playing, and then as they say their vows, and an elderly woman parades around the couple with a specially prepared broom. It's like a broom, but it's a little bit different. But it's adorned with red and gold ribbons, and it's she kind of gripping a broomstick. She kind of shifts the broom up and down as she marches around the couple, and it's to. Then she puts the broom on the floor, and it's a dirt floor. I can still see the dirt floor where she places the broom down, and then at the very end, after both respond affirmatively, she asks, are you confident in your decision to marry? And if they both say yes, and then they jump over the broom, and then they land into matrimony.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of cultural stuff that went on during that time. But
so the 1977 miniseries that you're talking about, Roots, was the first time it was really portrayed to the public as a thing. There are written accounts from people who lived in slavery that jumped over the broom. And that's where the roots of it comes from for the movie to portray.
Okay.
So then the movie comes along, shows the act and the ritual, and that's what made it not common, but a fairly common practice today.
Okay.
However, the start of it was, so you join hands, you say your I do's, and you would jump over a broom to cement the union, because they didn't get to sign a marriage license, or that was the act of signing the marriage license.
Okay, so the jumping over the broom was like signing and saying, okay.
Yes, that was the symbolism for everybody.
Why the broom? You're going to get to that. I'm being patient. I'm going to be patient.
Yes.
Okay.
So why the broom? That is what you want to know.
That is really what I want to know. I want to know why the broom.
The origins aren't entirely clear. There's no definitive answer.
Because they can tie the broom to different cultures, right? To the indigenous cultures in Europe, and a semblance of the broom, not the exact same, but yeah.
Yes. So whether or not this is a strictly African culture, or if it's something that was picked up because of European culture here,
Right.
We kind of go both ways. More than likely, it existed in both simultaneously. There is suggestion it was a West African tradition prior to transatlantic slave trade. Okay. We also know that it is a European, primarily Roma, Gypsy. Also, there are written accounts outside of the U.S., and I believe it was Wales, where there's historical account of the Roma population there and their broomstick marriage.
Yes.
As far as it being other
and I
places,
think they sustained that ritual like into the 1840s.
Yes.
I mean, it was still present
Yes.
in Welsh till then. Okay.
Yes. So, as far as other areas, because the Romanian gypsies traveled and settled, they even made it over to the U.S. As far as their other stops
along the way,
there's not, as far as I know or could find, record of jumping the broom or a broomstick marriage. So it very well could be that people in the U.S. who observed the African culture, the enslaved population,
right,
carried it to England and introduced it to the. We don't know.
We don't know which direction the trade.
So how it can, and it is entirely possible that both had their own practice of this. Uh-huh. So, and that, I mean, to me seems likely just because of the symbolism of the broom. So we know that in ancient Egypt, the broom was associated with fertility.
I did not know that.
And
why the broom? I'm going to be quiet and listen. Okay.
Why the broom? Because
when I think of fertility, I don't ever think of a broom, but keep going.
Well, I mean, you have to, there were other symbols of fertility. There were fertility gods. The broom for ancient Egypt was both masculine and feminine. You had the stick that held it together.
Uh-huh.
So that's the masculine symbol. The masculine aspect of the broom is the broomstick. And then you have the either dried leaves or dried grass or whatever is attached to the bottom that handles life and does
all the hard work.
Yes.
Just like,
and that's the feminine side of
right.
it. So when you have these two things combined, to them it was a symbol of fertility because it brought the strength of the broomstick to and joined them together.
I had never heard that before.
So, and that was common it's still common. There's a lot of symbolism with the broom across several cultures. It is still a very important symbol now for pagan religions.
Really?
So, yes.
Is anything to do with witches, or is this
yes.
Okay, I thought maybe I could make that jump, but I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, that is why witches fly on a broom. Because brooms have existed for
I watched Wicked. I thought it was just because it was there at the end in the magic powers. That's not how all that started?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, we know that brooms don't fly.
You were just full of just bad news. Bad news.
Brooms don't fly. And when we're talking about brooms, we're not talking about the plastic thing you would pick up at Walmart. Ceremonial brooms were handcrafted. So this part symbolizes the masculinity, the strength of the broom, and this part is the feminine energy, the attachment, the
all things life.
Yes,
giving,
sweeping, keeping things together is the purpose of that is the entire purpose of a broom, is to sweep things
as
in a
your
pile.
grandma would say, a man may work from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. Okay.
So that is the symbolism to the broom. That's why it is important, because it doesn't function. Neither part of this is going to function without the other. You cannot have an effective broom without the masculine part or the feminine part.
So now I have questions. What if two feminine parts of the broom get together? for a whole nother show. Come back to us then.
The practicality of a broom, the purpose of a broom has held symbolism since the beginning of time. People have always wanted a clean house. I mean, nobody wants to live in filth. Even when we didn't have floors.
Yes, dirt floors.
You still swept it and kept the dirt at bay so that...
Daddy would talk about Grandma Bertha sweeping the dirt floor when I was little.
Well, they lived in a barn.
I'm like, how would you sweep the dirt floor? But they did. They swept to...
Yeah, because, I mean, you can at least tidy up and make it compact so that when it's not just all over you and in your bed. And, there's... Every home had one. Everybody had a broom.
Well, I did not know that.
So, across every culture, brooms have existed forever.
When was the first broom?
They found brooms in ancient Egyptian tombs and in archaeological digs.
Really?
From everywhere. Brooms have always existed. The purpose of the broom was to bring things together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the dirt that you want to get rid of, whatever it is, you need the broom to bring it together to remove it. It represented like life being scattered and things being scattered, and the broom, you sweep it all.
Helps, like when we think about the transatlantic slaves, then their lives were scattered.
Yeah.
I mean, because what they were left at home was at home. Their family members were scattered. So the symbolization of the broom was to help try to bring all that together.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. In pagan religions, a broom was used to... Cleanliness was... What is that?
Next to godliness.
Yeah, cleanliness is next to godliness. That's not a new thing. That's not a Christian thing. That is something that has been believed for...
Shut your
mouth.
Ever.
Evil is out there, and it's messy, and it's...
And then they had to have a way to explain them.
Yes, and evil... In ancient cultures, the idea that there is evil out there trying to get you and you need protection.
Lurking in the shadows.
Needing protection from that existed. That was their reason for nearly everything. Everything they did that we still do today was based on protection from
something.
Evil forces, evil spirits.
Doers.
Yes. The same thing with cleanliness. Evil doesn't
like it tidy. So the tidier
it is, the safer it is. Okay. Because everything that happened to you and your family was either because of good forces or evil forces.
And if you had chaos in your home because it wasn't tidy, then you were inviting it in. Forces.
Yes. So and that is
unless you had your broom.
Bare basic of every single superstition tradition that we have now. That is the very basic reason for everything's existence. Was there's good, there's bad, you need protection.
It's kind of, you've summed up life.
I mean, right.
Think about everything. There's good, there's bad, you need protection.
So the broom, that importance because of what it did.
Fascinating.
So throughout history, throughout culture, the brooms are important in households and to families. They were kept, some cultures kept them by the door to, when you came in, you brushed the ick that you carried out the door.
I mean, would they?
Yeah. So now back to jumping over the broom. Whether or not they actively chose the broom because of the symbolism of the broom, we don't know.
Okay.
Could it be possible that these were enslaved people that had minimal possessions? And that is something that every household had. It's big enough 2 people can jump over at one time.
Right.
Possible. We don't know. But, it was something everybody had. And it was something they did. At the time, people that were bound in slavery, they weren't even viewed as people. Like, they were property.
Right.
So they had no rights. they could not legally marry.
No, and if they, when they did marry, even in ceremonies, their
They could
owners
still be.
could say, "We're
Yeah.
shipping one
We're
of you
keeping
off,
you
we're
and you're
just-
going."
We're
Yeah.
dissolving this."
I mean,
So
they
there
did that
was
with
no-
mothers and children.
Yes, so there's
They're not going to respect the sanctity of
no.
a marriage. So the actual act of it was symbolic. I mean, they had a wedding ceremony where I do, or however they phrased it, because that has changed over time.
Yes, some of them would
But-
even say to death or distance separate us because they could be sold at any time.
Yeah, because sometimes distance was, and it
Right.
wasn't death, and it wasn't their choice.
Right.
But it was an act to show their little circle, their, whoever was there, other enslaved people on the plantation or whatever, their commitment to one another.
And when you think about that, that's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because they knew that it could maybe just be for a day, a
Right.
week, a year, if they were lucky, maybe longer. But still, they were going to have something that symbolized
Yes.
that love and that connection for the
Yeah.
time.
Traditionally, brooms are kept by the threshold of the door, so they symbolize new beginnings.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe that this entire culture chose a broom randomly.
Right, there has to be.
Brooms were symbolic. And I know that especially in ancient Egyptian culture, the broom was important and it was symbolic for protection and keeping evil away. And when you mass produce things, you lose the importance of it.
Yes, you do.
When you can go to Walmart and buy a broom for $5, you lose the importance of it.
Yeah, you do.
At one time, they were these beautifully handcrafted Santa Clauses. And as far as for ceremonial purposes, not just the jumping of the broom, but in ceremonial purposes where brooms are used across ancient civilizations for whatever reason, they were well thought out.
Oh, yeah.
Specific herbs were used to make the sweeper part, and a specific tree was used to make the handle. It was not just something
And I bet
thrown
I
together.
bet there were even some that, like the little Santa Claus here, had special markings that were indicative.
Right.
But I remember Grandma's brooms were. I always talk about Grandma, but I remember she had some old brooms, not just bought at the store brooms, but some, and they were a work of art too.
I don't know if this was handmade. I don't know anything about your broom, but
I
it's
think
braided,
my
it's
broom
woven.
I feel that my broom was handmade.
I feel that it was too. We also know that specifically to Egyptian, which is African culture, the broom symbolized fertility, masculine, feminine energy, and
Yes.
so I'm more inclined to believe that the broom was chosen specifically for this ceremony for both the Romanian gypsy culture and the enslaved people.
Because of the merging of the two energies together. What do we have that represents that bonding, that connection of male and female energy?
Yes. And as far as that goes, that's not an every culture belief. That was specifically an Egyptian culture belief.
In the broom?
In the broom.
In the broom.
Yes. Ancient Persian, ancient Egyptian, Roman, Greek, all had importance in something we take for granted that we buy from Walmart for $5.
Something we do take for granted. I think that's one of the major downfalls of society is that we can mass produce so many things now, and that we have lost the art of workmanship.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is
that. Well, and you also have to keep in mind that anything that had symbolism to these cultures, Catholicism started erasing things that
didn't fit in with the
Right.
plan. Right.
Things that did hold symbolism like that was viewed as evil.
That's right. We can't
avoid.
We can't talk about that. We're going to have to get that out here. The same the same thing with African traditions, Native American traditions, anything that wasn't seen quite, we just tried to negate.
Right. Yes.
African culture is such a colorful, powerful culture. I mean, just we think of the dance, and you think of the
music
and everything together. It's just what a powerful culture. Same with Native American culture.
And if you look throughout history, they're not identical, but they mirror each other. I mean, it all comes from a centralized knowledge.
Yes. I mean, it really...
And just like from a historical, anthropological belief based on things that they found, we believe that civilization started in the Middle East. So it started there and branched out with what they knew or believed or assumed based on a need for an answer.
Right.
You know, and it gets twisted and turned throughout the generations, but essentially looks the same across the board.
Well, yeah, when you study, because there are actually DNA studies where you can take the DNA of different civilizations back in time, and they tried to pattern and find out how that may have traveled from where it originated to different aspects when they find similar. I mean, we all have the same DNA, but it's, there are differences and variations, but how those variations and changes take place over time and how they have the migratory path that they've all taken, which I love that stuff. It's fascinating.
Jumping over the broom, it was a symbol for the enslaved population in the U.S. because they couldn't sign. I mean, their marriages weren't legal. It was just something that they could do to show the people around them, we're sealing this. It is a done deal.
I'm confessing my love. This is where we're, and regardless, and I mean, and again, they entered. I mean, like when you think of a traditional marriage, you go into that thinking, that's your partner for life. And I'm sure that they felt and they wanted so much for them to be that partner for life, but they knew that they could be ripped away at any time. But you just have to, the resilience of the black culture is just...
Once, slavery was abolished, the act of jumping over the broom kind of faded away until the movie Roots brought it back. And now it's a fairly common...
So it's really kind of branched out to a lot of black culture now.
Black culture, yeah.
Again, why everyone should study history, embrace history, and love history.
Yeah, it is all important.
It is. To those of you that have jumped over the broom in the past, or are thinking of jumping over the broom in the future, best of love.
Best of love.
I guess that's all I've got.
Thanks for joining us.
Take care of your brooms.
Take care of your brooms. They're important.
Brooms. They are. Get that.
Make your own.
Make your own broom. We challenge you. Make a broom.